On any given day, there are more than 20,000 open warrants in Bexar County alone. You can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference. Make the call. Good evening and welcome to tonight's South Texas Most Wanted. You know, illegal firearms are a problem in every major American city. You combine that with the drug trade and authorities are going to come looking for you. And that's what has our first fugitive on the run, and he has some distinctive markings that could make him easy to find. Authorities are looking for Lamar Calvin White. He is wanted for allegedly violating the conditions of his supervised release. Now, back in May of 2011, White was sentenced to 24 months in prison on a charge of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Now, after that, he was also ordered to serve 3 years of probation. But authorities say the 30-year-old continually tested positive for the use of cocaine and opiates and stopped attending mandatory meetings with his probation officer. Now remember, White had already done his time in prison, but by violating his probation, he could be facing anything from an extended probation to 2 to 10 years back behind bars. Likely one of the reasons he does not want to be found, but his artwork might make that a problem. As you can see, White has multiple tattoos on his chest, his abdomen, and his right arm. Authorities say White has a violent criminal history that includes assault, engaging in organized criminal activity, possession of a firearm, possession with intent to deliver cocaine, and evading arrest. If you have any information on Lamar White, call our South Texas Most Wanted hotline at 210-462-1747. Again, 210-462-1747. You can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference. Make the call.
Good evening. Authorities can use your help catching up with these next two suspects who are currently on the run. Police say Francisco Ornelas is wanted on several charges, including evading arrest, criminal trespassing, and giving false information when asked for his identification, and assault with bodily injury on a security officer. Now, it is unclear if all of these charges stem from a single incident, but what is clear is that he could be looking at some serious trouble. Just the charge of assaulting a security officer could be upgraded to a third-degree felony depending on the circumstances. Assault is normally a misdemeanor, but the 21-year-old could be looking at 2 to 10 years in state prison. Police say Francisco Ornelas is known to hang out on the southeast side of town, and his last known address is off of Ullman Road near I-10 and W.W. White Road. Also tonight, authorities are actively in search of another man accused of assault with bodily injury. 35-year-old Leroy McMillan. McMillan is also accused of theft and felony possession of a firearm. Just the firearm charge could be 2 to 10 years, and we are not even talking about the alleged assault. Leroy McMillan is also known to hang out on the east side, and authorities believe he could be staying in the area of Advanced Drive. That's near Pecan Valley Drive and Gates Elementary School. If you have any information on Francisco Ornelas or Leroy McMillan, give us a call on our South Texas Most Wanted hotline. The number is 210-462-1747. Again, that's 210-462-1747. You can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference. Make the call.
Raymond Lita is wanted for having an active arrest warrant involving escape from a federal residential reentry center. Lita was sentenced to 84 months in prison back in December of 2007 on charges involving possession with intent to distribute heroin. He was also ordered to serve 5 years of supervised release, but that is not happening right now. In July of 2015, almost 8 years later, Lita allegedly escaped from the reentry center while serving out the last part of his sentence. Now, in case you're wondering, a residential reentry center is the official name for what is often referred to as a halfway house, a place where inmates who are nearing their release, about 6 months out, are given a supervised environment, counseling, job placement, and other programs, all of which apparently Mr. Lita had no interest in. The 36-year-old Lita has some obvious identifiable tattoos on his neck and his right wrist. Authorities say he has an extensive criminal history that includes theft, burglary, evading arrest, unlawful possession of a firearm, along with possession with the intent to distribute both marijuana and heroin. If you have any information on Raymond Lita,
Call our South Texas Most Wanted hotline. Make the difference. Make the call. A crime caught completely on tape with the homeowners walking in just minutes after it happened.
After we put the video out to the public and your viewers got a chance to look at it, we received several solid tips. We're not quite ready to announce an arrest, but we're a little bit closer to solving this case thanks to the public tips that we received.
Now, the crooks got away with an electric guitar, a keyboard, an effects processor, and several other items. It appears they knew kind of exactly what they were looking for, but it's what happened next that might be most frightening.
The homeowner wandering in when they did could have been a very difficult situation.
We're very fortunate that people have these sort of surveillance cameras set up in their homes, because if we didn't have that, there's a very good chance that these guys were going to get away and we'd never know who committed this crime. However, it also was a very close call in this situation because the homeowner got there just a few moments after the suspects left the home. We're fortunate that they never had any sort of interaction. Now, we don't know if these guys were armed or if they were ready to take any sort of violent action, but that's a gamble and you don't want to be there to find out. And so in this situation, there was a couple of minutes in between, and for that we're grateful.
Those surveillance cameras gave us a very good look at our suspects. They might as well have posed for a prom shot. And authorities say this is the type of evidence that simply cannot be denied. Jesus Gonzalez is wanted by U.S. Marshals for having an active warrant for allegedly violating conditions of his supervised release. Now, back in November of 1993, the Spurs played their first NBA game in the Alamo Dome. Black and white leaders in South Africa approved a new democratic constitution, and President Bill Clinton approved the Brady Bill, which established a 5-day waiting period for purchasing a handgun. So, also, way back in November of 1993, Jesus Gonzalez was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison after being convicted on charges of bank robbery. He was also ordered to serve 3 years of supervised release. Now, how many times do we see it with fugitives like this? They do the crime, they do the jail time. They just can't seem to finish off that supervised release. Authorities say Gonzalez jumped his prison sentence in June of 1999. That's when the Spurs won their first championship, in case you're trying to remember. But just a year into his probation, authorities say Jesus violated his probation by not appearing before his probation officer and absconded from supervision. Yes, absconded. Look it up. Now, Gonzalez has a good reason to stay on the run. He is likely looking at prison time that would include the 2 years he still had on probation and as much as 6 years for the escape. Gonzalez is known to travel between San Antonio and Laredo, where he has lots of friends and family. Authorities agree with you. 15 years is a long time for someone to be on the run, and it's just time for Jesus Gonzalez to be brought in. The 56-year-old may look a bit different than he does in this 1993 mugshot, but he stands 5'8" with brown eyes and black hair. If you have any information on Jesus Gonzalez, give us a call on our South Texas Most Wanted hotline, the number 210-462-1747. Again, 210-462-1747. As always, make the difference. Make the call. Juan Leonardo Paulino is wanted by U.S. Marshals for allegedly violating conditions of his supervised release, what we like to call probation, and for escaping from a Bureau of Prisons facility. Now, back in November of 2010, Paulino was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison on a charge of possession with intent to distribute marijuana. Paulino served almost all of those 4 years. Then in September of 2014, just 2 months short of serving out that 4-year sentence, Paulino was sent to a residential reentry center here in San Antonio. That's what we like to call a halfway house. That's when he allegedly escaped after testing positive for drugs in a routine check. Now, just the escape charge from the halfway house has Paulino looking at up to 3 more years in prison. Paulino can be identified by a large tattoo on his abdomen that reads DCB. According to police, that stands for Dade County Blood. Authorities say Paulino has an extensive criminal history involving multiple drug convictions, and he is also known to carry a gun. The 50-year-old Paulino stands 5'1" and 150 pounds, so you are not likely to spot him in a crowd. He did grow up in Miami, Florida, which explains the Dade County reference in his tattoo, but authorities believe he may have found his way back to the San Antonio area. U.S. Marshals say they need the public's help to get this known drug dealer back in prison. If you have any information on Juan Leonardo Paulino, give our South Texas Most Wanted hotline a call. As always, make the difference. Make the call.
Good evening. Your tips and information are already making South Texas a safer place. These next fugitives are no longer on the run because of your effort. It appears the need for a breath of fresh air cost Tranquilino Villarreal his freedom. The 32-year-old was wanted after jumping bail on a DWI. He is also facing charges of failing to identify himself as a fugitive, giving false information, and possession of a controlled substance. Villarreal was located at some apartments in downtown San Antonio, right across the street from the Institute of Texan Cultures. Bounty hunters tracked him there, and when he came out to the balcony of the apartment to get some fresh air, they were able to positively identify him. That's when the San Antonio police pounced. Now, just the DWI charge could get Villarreal up to 6 months in jail and a $2,000 fine. But add in those other charges, and Villarreal could be looking at 2 years in prison and at least $8,000 in fines. And Richard Guzman may be in more trouble at home than he is with the law. The 28-year-old was wanted on a charge of criminal mischief. Authorities managed to track him to his home on Hoover Street, just off of South Zarzamora. Police say after a lengthy conversation with his wife inside the home, Guzman finally decided to give himself up peacefully. Now, in this case, Guzman is facing a Class A misdemeanor, which is punishable by up to 1 year in prison and a $4,000 fine. But believe it or not, in Texas, criminal mischief can go up to a first-degree felony. That depends on the amount of damage that has been done, and that can get you up to 99 years in prison. You can make South Texas a safer place. Call 210-462-1747. That's 210-462-1747. Make the difference, make the call. For South Texas Most Wanted, I'm Vanessa Gallegos.
From the golden days when Orson Welles read War of the Worlds on radio to today's Onion headlines, fake news' humor is a time-honored tradition, one that's perfect for April Fool's Day. After a few moments of confusion or actual xenophobia, it usually ends in laughter. Though the joke was lost on 29-year-old Burnett County resident Chastity Hobson, who read a story on Facebook, according to mysanantonio.com, that said that area supplies of methamphetamine and heroin had been contaminated by Ebola. The article then went on to say that anyone who had the drugs could bring them to their friendly neighborhood police department for testing and urge people not to do drugs until they were tested. Whether it was naivete, fear, civic-mindedness, or just being really high on meth, Chastity complied and told police to test her stash when they stopped her on a suspicious person call, according to KXAN-TV. After that, you can imagine her surprise when she learned that not only was the story made up, but that she was under arrest for giving drugs to a cop. According to mysa.com, police then went online to say that they'd had their first concerned citizen give them drugs, posts that were later taken down after they started a nationwide comment war about the role of police. Now, it might be easy to laugh this off as another dumb crook story, and believe me, we almost did. But let's think about what we're really laughing at here. That a woman is now behind bars because she read a story on the internet that was posted by someone who swore to serve and protect her. Always the April Fool. This is JT Street with this week's They Say You Did What?
I'm Trudy Stone with tonight's South Texas Difference Makers. Suicide rates, heart attacks, divorce rates. They are all higher among our local law enforcement than the general population. The Bexar County Sheriff's Department has decided this is the right time to make a move and help everyone involved. And that is what makes them one of our South Texas difference makers.
The Sheriff's Office has taken a bold step under the leadership of Sheriff Parmalu, and they have developed this program. It was their vision to have chaplains to support the officers and the detention staff so that they have a place for an outlet. The officers are under great stress all the time, and that gives them an opportunity to debrief with someone who's in their environment supporting them. And these volunteer chaplains give of their time. And what we're doing here today is we've developed a strategy, we've developed a training program for the chaplains such that they can be knowledgeable of the different areas in pastoral counseling and support our officers that support our community.
What we found in 2013, in fact in June of 2013, one of our detention deputies committed suicide. And the impact on the rest of the agency and on individuals was really devastating, but there were no resources such as chaplains, psychological services, counseling that were immediately available. Today we have 14 chaplains who provide emotional and spiritual support to our deputies. And in talking about how we could partner with the Ecumenical Center, they really came up with the idea of providing this program. It's a 14-week program for which they get continuing professional education credits. So it's an accredited course. It's over 400 contact hours over that 14-week period. And what it will do will be provide a baseline or a foundation for these chaplains.
I'm pastor at Wayside Chapel here in San Antonio, and I've had the privilege of working with the Bexar County Sheriff's chaplain through Gary, and just wonderful that you guys are here and you ladies are here as well to serve the officers. Before I was a pastor, I was a police officer in Dallas for a decade, and so I have a real heart for police. I was one of those men and women who wears the badge, and so I know what it looks like from the inside as well as on this side. So
there's a number of different lectures. We have wonderful lecturers from the community at large that will talk on topics such as the ministry of presence, PTSD and trauma, working with children, and working with ethics and being mindful of how communication takes place. Those are just to name a few.
You have to be a special kind of person who take on this responsibility, in my opinion. So what kind of people are you running into? What walks of life are they coming from?
All walks of life. We have folks that need support throughout our community, and many of our churches and synagogues and other areas of faith do a good job in supporting, but the need is so great that this will offer more opportunities to me, to this center. This is a very important step of reaching those people who deal with the most difficult circumstances in protecting our own families, in protecting our community at large, and giving them the support they deserve.
What it helps to do is to establish that baseline and provide them a common core of skills and abilities so that we know that the way that they approach this ministry of presence is consistent across the board.
But what kind of cases do they deal with? Is it officer-involved shootings? Is it domestic violence? What is it?
You know, the circumstances that our chaplains will be exposed to are many. Everything you can think of, where it may be a death in the family and they need support. They may be having difficulty with a child, just like we all do. You know, they're normal. We have to have such an indebtedness to them for what they do for us in protecting our freedom, but they're just like us in many other ways in life, with life's own challenges. So we're hopeful that these candidates that are giving of their time as volunteers to go through this program will be equipped to meet those needs.
Because it's not just about helping our deputies, it's also about making sure that they are emotionally fit to do the job that they're called on to do every day. And it just strengthens our community as well.
The new chaplains will put in more than 14 weeks of training to help our first responders deal with the difficult situations. Again, there is no specific denomination. There is no ideal. This is making sure that everyone is the healthiest they can be. If you know of a group or an organization that deserves some attention, call our South Texas hotline at 210-462-1747. For South Texas Most Wanted, I'm Trudy Stone.
Thank you very much for joining us again tonight. You can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference, make the call. I'm Michael Valdez for South Texas Most Wanted. Good night.